Hello, I'm Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 200. We got here. So yes, Vlog 200, its title is How Did We Get Here? Creating an Academic Vlog. We've had a tendency, as we've hit these milestones, vlog 50, vlog 100, 150 and now 200, that we use this space to reflect on this odd, weird, rather bonkers intellectual space that we have constructed together. And Bunnyman gave me a great excuse to make this the focus of Vlog 200. And Bunnyman has been a great supporter of these vlogs. Hi, and congratulations on your recently completed PhD and every success to you, Bunnyman. You've been amazing. But Bunnyman's request was a great one. Quote, Tara, this may seem somewhat self-explanatory, but could you tell us about how you research the material for these vlogs? What's the process and the time involved? End of quote. So Bunnyman, I am going to answer those great questions that you always ask me. And I'm going to talk about how we got here. But we've also got a meta point here, I think, by Vlog 200. This is a learning-led, teaching-led research space. And so what I want to do is talk about for you how you create an academic vlog. Whether you end up in a job such as this, or you need a new and innovative mode of research dissemination. If you need a way to reach stakeholders in an innovative way, an academic vlog may be a chance to do that. So I'm going to talk about how you can do this in your career. And also maybe there's a more personal role for you, that you want to think about the personal spaces of your intellectual life. And a vlog is also great to do that. So today, yes, I will talk about how this vlog was created, how it's produced each week, what went right, what went wrong, the challenges, the problems, the stuff that is really, really odd when you do something once a week, every week that becomes part of your life. And also, I'm hoping that you can learn from me, so you get a chance to do it a lot better than I've done it. So why a weekly vlog? Well, let me tell you. I've been in management and leadership jobs in higher education for over a decade, in fact well over a decade before I entered this job at Flinders University. I was the head of media research at the University of Brighton in the United Kingdom, and that research project existed over multiple locations in Brighton, in Eastbourne and yes, the wonderful Hastings. And then I was head of school, managing over 12 degree programs with a rather complicated, volatile staff group and management culture at the University of Bolton, and it was important to build a community up. And then I was the head of school of teacher education that existed with staff and students over 3 locations in 2 countries. So I got into the habit when I started at the University of Brighton to send weekly emails to our staff and our PhD students on Friday mornings. Now, when I arrived at the University of Brighton, none of the staff were research active. So I was starting from a pretty low base. So it was important every week to start to reconnect the staff with an academic culture, with a research culture. And so I would send journals, send all the sort of innovative work that was emerging on a weekly basis in quite a fascinating scholarly field and discipline. And I also had a time imperative in that job, because a decision was made that media was going to be entered in the research assessment exercise, the RAE, at the University of Brighton. So I had to move staff from zero to hero, from research inactivity to entry into a research assessment exercise in less than 14 months. Okay, so therefore my weekly emails focused on, you've guessed it, here's a journal that requires an article now. Let's work on that quite quickly as a team and get these articles out. And the weird thing is, innovative research was really created with this propulsive need. And what I did was I recorded podcasts with staff to scaffold them into research activity, to get them to talk the argument of articles so it would help them write it quickly, and also there was method to my madness. I was trying to show a research environment, a research culture, so I could write about that in the RAE entry. Now, podcasts are what I do. I've recorded academic podcasts since 2006 and analogue sonic materials for teaching and learning since the late 1990s. So I work in sonic media, I research sonic media, I do sonic media sound is my life. It is my lifeblood. It's brilliant. So I'm used to it. That's what I do. So from this experience in creating a research culture at incredible speed, it showed to me the value of that weekly communication, that weekly email carrying research, but also conveying podcasts about research culture. So that was great. That worked well. Great result in the RAE. Thanks. Brilliant. Then I arrived at the University of Bolton, and there were very different problems there. It was and is a very volatile university. Waves of restructures were taking place. On most days, a staff member was restructured out of their job. It was a pretty volatile place. And as I arrived, a whole series of new degrees, 12 of them, were being taught for the first time, and I was the head of that department. Now, the staff members, quite rightly, were angry, they were frustrated, they were frightened, and they were protecting their turf, and that's quite right. And once more, research was seriously undercooked at the University of Bolton. In fact, I had an additional problem that I'd never seen before. Most of the staff didn't even have a PhD. The staff didn't have a PhD. And of course, once more, I had to do something very, very quickly because the Research Excellence Framework, the REF, had a pending deadline. The REF had replaced the RAE in the United Kingdom. So they were going to enter a humanities suite once more. And so, yes, once more, I had to move staff from zero to hero, complete research inactivity, to an REF entry with new algorithms of assessment, new metrics of assessment, including impact and engagement. So once more, I commenced the weekly emails, sharing staff research, sharing staff opportunities, also conducting podcasts with the staff, showing the engagement and the impact of their research in the community, and fascinating research emerged from this remarkable staff group. A lot of my heart still lives in Bolton in the northwest of England. Remarkable staff, and the staff lifted incredibly quickly and produced remarkable research. And the REF result for Bolton was higher, because we focused it so clearly, was higher than all these other well-funded universities in the northwest of England. So it was a remarkable experience. Okay, so then I returned to Australia, and I returned to Charles Sturt University in regional Australia. And profoundly different problems emerged, particularly involving time and space. So my campuses were in Bathurst and Dubbo, that's deep in regional New South Wales, but also in Burlington, in Ontario, in Canada. So I was having to manage incredible time zone differences. So my working day started at 2 a.m, which is the middle of the working day in Burlington, Ontario, and Canada, and also the profound geographical differences of rurality, regionality, and also urbanity, because Burlington, of course, is just outside of Toronto, which is an outstanding, fabulous global city. And also the nature of education. If people talk about the education discipline, actually there's about 50 or 60 different disciplines within education, from phys ed to inclusive education, everything in between, from early childhood education to higher education studies. And so the qualification level, the experience, the methodology, the ontological discussions are all incredibly volatile in education. So again, I commenced those weekly emails sent on Fridays, a weekly podcast, this time of the weekly school research seminar that we put in place. So that research seminar was recorded, I edited it, and it went out once a week. And so what it did was it started to provide a research community of safety to share between these three locations. And of course, the other great advantage of a podcast series is if you are working at a smaller or not well-known regional university, then suddenly you're punching above your weight. So you've got a small regional university that people around the world, tens of thousands of people, are listening to the research. And of course my colleagues, their careers started to gain momentum and they could send the podcasts on to publishers and start to gain international publishing rather than simply Australian publishing. So all of this is working incredibly well as a strategy. Before I had even thought of coming to Flinders. So we've got a weekly email in place. We've got a podcast series. It's building an intellectual community. It's helping staff kick on. It's binding together our PhD students into an academic culture and also shows great research to the world beyond these very small universities. Okay, so that's my prehistory. The prehistory of building intellectual communities in hard times, and also over space and time, and developing research outcomes against the odds. Then, of course, from all of that experience, I had the great gift of joining you, of gaining this job at Flinders University, and wow, it has been a privilege. A Dean of Graduate Research. A Dean of Graduate Research. And look, there is only one of me, there is only one Dean of Graduate Research at every single university around the world. And it's probably the only leadership role left in our universities that requires a match, a melding of research and teaching. You've got to be excellent at both. These days, universities are specialists. So you're a specialist teacher, you do research, it's a research-only contract. It's very rare that you have a job that requires excellence in both. And the people in this job have to have a deep understanding of teaching and learning and andragogy right the way through an undergraduate scaffolding year. You have to understand the role of honours in some systems, coursework, research, masters, how students move into a PhD. We have to understand the diverse supervisory modes, the diverse doctoral modes, the diverse disciplines and how they all operate together. We have to be translocal in our outlook and international in our aspiration. We have to be intensely research active and stay there, and also very strong communicators. So we have to be a teacher, we have to be a researcher, and you can't fake this stuff. In these sorts of jobs, it's very, very difficult to stay research active. And we look at most of the Deans of Graduate Research around the world, they don't reach research activity. When I took this job on, I made a promise to myself that I would stay research active, that I would get up and I would do the work. So we expect at Flinders University our staff to be research active, to be able to supervise, and we ask them to produce 5 refereed articles in 5 years. That's the benchmark of research activity. For myself, I demand 5 publications, books, articles, book chapters, whatever, 5 refereed publications every year. So I work 5 times what we expect of our supervisors, because you can't be a pretender in jobs like this. You can't hide behind the mask. You either know what you're doing or you don't, full stop. And so what a challenge, what a gift this job has been. And I've always described it as the goalkeeper of the university. Like with a football team, soccer team, there is only one of us. And look, goalkeepers are a bit mad. We run our own sort of rules, and we're our own little community really, because we're different from everybody else, every other leadership role in a university. And look, if the team, the university, is playing well, the Dean of Graduate Research is and should be invisible. It's only when stuff goes wrong, when the rubber meets the road, then suddenly we're visible quickly at a moment of crisis. But as I was preparing for this job, thinking, right, well, I've got all this experience coming to this new job, how exciting. I'm going, right, well, I'll send the weekly email. I think that's a great idea. I'll highlight the interesting new research to our PhD students, fantastic. And I'll produce podcasts with the students, so the students get a chance to talk about their research and disseminate it in new ways. Fantastic. Great. Then as I was doing the research in a couple of the months before I came to Flinders University and arrived in Adelaide, I realised something. 1/3 of our PhD and research master students at Flinders live outside of Adelaide. and 1/3 of our students are part-time. And they're not the same third. Now, I never actually recovered from that information because that changed absolutely everything. I also discovered that we had 2 students in Tennant Creek, Heather and Melanie. Hi Heather, hi Melanie. You are very important to this story and you're very important to this vlog. You'll hear more about Heather and Melanie shortly. So therefore, good media professor that I have been, I started to explore the research, and there's not much, but the research available on the digital doctorate, a phrase I coined, but looked at, well, how does digitisation impact on students off campus and all those sorts of issues? How can you be a Dean of Graduate Research where the then faculties separated all their students out into silos? How do you manage this? How can you be a Dean of Graduate Research when your students span the age gaps of 23 to 89? Wow. How do we keep the connection with the part-timers? As we know by the international research, the part-timers are the most likely students to leave to a trick the program. The longer you go, the less likely you are to finish, and the part-timers have a very poor pass rate. Right. How do I care for the hundreds of students enrolled at Flinders University who are in regional, rural and remote locations? They're doing their theses from around the world. What am I going to do? How could I make this astonishingly diverse group of students feel special, feel cared for, and have a connection with the Office of Graduate Research and a connection with their Dean? It was then I realised, team, with some horror, that I was going to have to switch my media platform and my interface. I could still use sound, sonic media podcasts, but it would be a secondary set of media platforms and interfaces for this job. I would send a weekly email, but the content would be very different. And I needed to be visible. So it was after discussing all this sociology with my beloved late husband, Professor Steve Redhead, I realised that, wow, okay, breathing, video is the answer. Video is important. It is an important platform because the Dean or any person in a role can be seen, and it creates a quick change, a rapid change. And the thing about visual media are that they are multi-sensory. I am looking at you, and there is an intimacy that is created from the exchange of our gazes. You know who I am, you know what I look like, even if we never meet, you know that. And okay, so with some horror, I realised, right, well, video is going to be a solution here to a series of the very unusual groupings and cohort management that we've got at Flinders. So it renders visible part-time students, regional, rural, remote students, older students, post-disciplinary, transdisciplinary students, and those who are perhaps not that wedded to their siloed discipline, the students that want to move. Okay, so right, we've realised a video is going to be produced. And this is where we start the meta lessons for you. Okay, video. You're thinking video a solution. How do you do this? So what we're learning so far is video, visual media more generally, are hot media, and they're multi-sensory. They are immediate and they create that quick and immediate sense of change. So this culture is changing. Here is a video. And they build community and they build connections. But also visual media are located on a continuum, moving from the most basic of digital storytelling with photographs right the way through to a Hollywood mega buster. Yep. So these videos couldn't be that Hollywood fantastic film because these videos had to be produced around my day job. My job was not producing these videos. My job had nothing to do with producing these videos. So they had to be efficiently produced. I couldn't lose a day. I couldn't even lose a morning in producing them. So therefore, make the selection for the appropriate interface or medium that suits what you're trying to do, suits your research, suits your teaching outcomes, and suits your institutional goals. What are you trying to achieve? Start with that question, then your medium will be revealed. Then decide on the genre or the mode of communication within that interface. And that's how I ended up selecting a vlog. Now team, I'm the exact opposite of an academic triple threat. I'm a woman working in the humanities and the social sciences, and I'm a woman working in the humanities and the social sciences who happens to be an Australian. I have nothing going for me, joking, have nothing going for me. So therefore, when somebody from my sort of background occupies space and claims my voice as an Australian, then that's a challenging space, team, because contemporary Australia is highly anti-intellectual, has pretty high levels of sexism, and the humanities and the social sciences are completely marginalised in this country. No one cares. So from all of that background, to bring and centralise these discussions and concerns, wow, that's pretty challenging. So as you can see, this visuality has a purpose. I also wanted it to have an informality. This is not a lecture. I wanted to almost capture a day in the life of an academic. So it had that diary quality as well. I also wanted to be able to film these sessions wherever I was in the world. So as this job moved me, you know, interstate, round Australia, Alice Springs, moved me internationally, Macau, where else was I? I did a gig in Ontario. So as I moved around the world, the camera would come with me and I would record the vlogs wherever I happened to be. So therefore I had to set up the camera quickly and find strategies to make the tech work and be mobile wherever I may be. So therefore, when you're thinking about video as an option, work out your audience, who you're trying to reach, and work out your goals going into it. Work out your time restrictions, how much time can you give to this thing, and give it meaning, give it motivation. Always hold on to what is the big picture. Why are you doing this? So I decided on a vlog. Unusual word, unusual genre, but there was a reason. So a video blog is compressed into a vlog. And just as blogs became well known and popular through WordPress, vlogs became popular through YouTube. And YouTube emerged in February 2005. So by the time I was thinking, right, well, I'll do a regular video and house it on YouTube, YouTube was quite stable as a platform, and that's important. So vlogs are delivered in regular installments, they have an informality, and they build a community from the ground up. They can be disseminated and triangulated through a range of social media, including LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook, which I also do. And of course, people can subscribe to the channel. They're also free and open access. So if that's your politics and you're interested in research dissemination in a way that is open access, this is a way to do it. Vlogs are particularly gaining some increased attention in education and health dissemination, sharing the stories around departments, around disciplines, and also communities managing chronic illnesses are using vlogs and YouTube in a really inspirational and powerful way. But what these health and education vlogs share is that creation of an online community that emerges very slowly through time. You see, vlogs are never about big groups, they're never about big communities or big audiences, but they work very well with small and bespoke communities like PhD students, and they find deterritorialized spaces where people find a vlog, insert it into their lives, gain some insight, and move back to their daily life. So obviously I could have chosen something more formal, we could have done sort of a lecture type thing, but I decided, you know what, let's go with a vlog, and there are reasons for that, and it has relationships with podcasts, because they could be variable lengths, so they vary enormously in space. I think about 17 minutes to about 47 minutes, depending on the content That determines the length, so multiple lengths, variable topics, and also a relatively informal delivery. Because I wanted you, our students, our regional, rural, remote students, our international students, our students on our campus in Adelaide, I wanted you to see your dean. Here's your dean, I am here for you. I wanted you to see and meet our staff in the Office of Graduate Research. I wanted you to feel connected to the campus, to the project of doing a PhD. So, consistency of delivery was a key. So we've done one every single week since I've started. We've never missed a week. And also I kept on thinking about Heather and Melanie in Tennant Creek. They were everything that this vlog is really about, because I wanted them to feel connected to their university. I wanted to get to know them, and I know them both very well. They needed to get to know me, and you know what? Once a week, on Friday morning, they needed to get that email from me and see a video, have an infusion of intellectual ideas in Tennant Creek once a week. So whatever else had happened during the week at work, you get an email from me. I care about you, I'm looking at you, I'm supporting you, I care about you, let's do this. Here's a few ideas for you to think about. May not be relevant, that's cool, but if they are, winning. And I also wanted to go a step further, and I did this right from the start. I announced this in vlog 1 that was recorded in our lounge room in Bathurst in New South Wales before I even arrived in Adelaide. And the big idea I wanted to trial, and I really didn't know if it would work, is I wanted our students, our community, to form the content. People talk about student-focused or student-centered learning. I wanted the students to suggest the vlog titles. I also wanted to interview and talk with students, so students would be seen, would be visible, and also talk with some of the great scholars, the greatest scholars in the world. As I moved around the world, I'd set up a camera, and here's an interesting person for you to meet. So this part of the vlog has gone incredibly well, and I've met the most astounding students, and 95, at least 95% of the vlog topics have been suggested by you. And this model has really allowed to fly my theoretical perspective, what I call the 3Ds: digitisation, deterritorialisation, and disintermediation. So I have a theory of media, of, inverted commas, new media, which is now 20 years old, new ways of thinking about media, the 3D modelling, and I've applied that through these vlogs. Now, the meaning of digitisation is clear enough, but disintermediation is cutting out the middleman between the producer of content and the consumer of content, right? So as you can see, not a single university marketing department is involved here. There are no professional colleagues involved in this vlog. It's just me, a camera, and you. So no, I don't have to rely on any other staff member to do any work on these vlogs at all. It's just me and you, team. Disintermediation. But the vlogs are also deterritorialised. They move through space and time with ease. Whether we've got our students in Tennant Creek, whether we've got our students in Dublin, hi team, London, Ontario, London, England, Alice Springs, Adelaide, Auckland. All of us are part of this deterritorialised community. And I was also making a political point, as is my will, and my political point is this was always narrow casting, not broadcasting. And I was constructing unpopular culture, to borrow a title from one of my late husband's books. We're doing unpopular culture here. Unpopular culture is really like the word post-colonialism, right? The bit un and the bit post, those two bits of words matter, un and post, because they problematise, critique and question the word that follows them. So I took on this job because I believe that PhD programs are the last stand in higher education, the last stand in our universities. I worry about academic standards a lot. I worry about an intellectual life a lot. Now I can complain about it, oh, standards, yes, and the lack of intellectual commentary. I could complain about that, or I could do something about that. And these vlogs do something about that. They intervene. They present to you, our next generation, a series of options and alternatives and hard truths and debates about international scholarship, provocative ideas, arguments for your consideration. I don't say anything that I want you to agree with. I don't want you to be me. I'm very boring. Don't be me. But I present a series of ideas for your consideration. You're brilliant people. Make up your own mind, but think about the ideas before you dismiss them. So I came into this job with a political goal, a series of political goals. I firstly wanted to break up academic silos. I wanted to break them up, break up the brittle little academic communities that don't get beyond themselves. That was the first target. I wanted to activate post-disciplinarity. I also wanted to engage an intellectual culture. This is not dumbed down content. I confront you every single week. Lift, lift, lift. Come on, you can do this. Be better, be stronger, be brilliant. Lift. And also, be international. Be truly mobile as a scholar, so that you, our students, don't live in self-satisfaction in Adelaide, repeating the mantras of morning television that Australia is the best nation in the world, because it's not. That the United States is the best nation in the world, because it's not. Great scholars are international scholars. They're not world famous in Adelaide. Team, they're world famous. Great scholars transcend disciplines. They break up, they challenge the truths that they've been taught all their lives. Great scholars read widely and write wildly. We provoke, we transform, we transcend. So as you can see, there was a strong theoretical framework around these vlogs, absolutely, but there was also a political imperative right from the start during these troubling times. And look, I was also aware that women in our universities, particularly in our Australian universities, are pretty invisible. Women of a certain age, over about 30, are really, really invisible. And I'm a pretty experienced old media performer, and I knew what would happen when the videos appeared, and surprise, surprise, it did. So in the first month of this vlog, and I wish I was simplifying the sociology on this, but I'm not. So in the first month of this vlog, a series of old white male professors started to email me with very aggressive emails, including phrases like, "Who do you think you are? Don't you tell my students what to do?" And my personal favourite, "You need to stop with this ghetto talk." Bless. Now, as I always do, and I receive, one crazy email a day. I get at least one nasty email a day. And as I have always done in my career, I get this stuff and I always make a point of replying responsively and respectfully and with kindness. So I get this stuff, they never get it back, ever, 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 right? And what I would do when someone said, who the hell do you think you are? What I would do is I would say, well, this is who I am and here's my CV. And interestingly enough, every single time I sent my CV to one of these older gentlemen, I never heard from them again. But obviously in the case of the gentleman with the ghetto talk, I obviously engaged with him because I was worried that, was he configuring what I was saying as hate speech? Remember, I'd only been back in Australia for a few years and I thought, all right, what's going on here? And I said, look, help me. So I'm so sorry if I've offended you. Could you explain what is worrying you? And I'll try and correct it. And it became very clear as this conversation continued with this gentleman that he thought I was incredibly low class. Actually, low class. And so he was confusing class-based abuse with race-based abuse, as you do. So because of that confusion, he was putting me in the ghetto with Tupac. And of course, considering what happened to Tupac, it's pretty lonely in that ghetto at the moment. So obviously, you know, you get all the stuff. You get the abuse of my appearance, people don't like my makeup, people don't like my hair, people don't like my clothes, people don't like the weird stuff. That's fine, cool. Because what this vlog is standing for is unapologetic diversity. You don't see a lot of old goths in the culture. Deal with it. But also, this was never about popular culture. This was never about broadcasting. This is decontextualised, deterritorialised, narrow-casted, unpopular culture, targeting at a very specific group of scholars. That is you. And yes, you are confronted by a diversity of people, body shapes, accents, ages, ability, disability. And that's brilliant, because that's the foundation of an intellectual life. It's also the foundation of good citizenship. And look, there were calls from students early on to simplify the material, to shorten the material, to have PowerPoint slides. And remember, the point of it, why I was doing this from the start, was I was not dumbing this stuff down, so I would not simplify the material. I didn't want it to become easier. I wanted it to stay at standard. And I made a decision right at the start to do what vlogs do best. Embrace the diversity, welcome the difficulty, and never be wedded to the size of an audience. And as I've always said and believe to this day, if the one person that requested that vlog enjoyed it, learnt something, thought a bit differently, then I've been successful. If one person who felt disconnected from their discipline or their university or their environment reconnected through this vlog, then wow, that's incredibly successful, and I'm humbled by that. So the lessons that I want you to learn when you enact a project such as this is know what you're doing and why you are doing it. Have clear goals and aims going in before you record 1 minute of video. Put in place a clear theoretical frame about the theories you are deploying through this learning-led experience. You must be personally robust. If you're not personally robust, team, don't go anywhere near this. And work out what success looks like for you and the project. And don't be dragged into other people's insecurities, bluster, sexism, racism, ableism, ageism. Don't be dragged into that stuff. Centered, know what you're doing, enjoy it, learn something. Be courageous and claim new space. So to do this, you're going to need some tech. You're going to need some technology. Now, the technology that we use in vlogs is different from what you would use in other more conventional visual media, because I need to be efficient, so do you. And we need a system that is really, really quick. So wherever I was in the world, I could set this camera up in 2 minutes, give it a 30-second test, and then go for it. That was the gig. So the vlog started with what I still see as the best video camera for vlogs ever created. That is the flip camera. So the first 70 or so vlogs were done on the flip camera. Brilliant thing. All right. Fantastic, that's the flip. Now, Cisco bought the flip camera from a startup in San Francisco, and they bought it to kill it. Oh joy. And software is resident on this camera, so when Cisco killed the flip, I lost my software and my hardware in one hit. Oh joy. So then I moved to the Zoom camera. Now, I've used the Zoom microphones for well over a decade. The BBC uses them, I use them for all my podcasts. So Zoom is fantastic. So I thought, all right, well, they've got a camera, so I'll move to this. Now, it hasn't been great. The fisheye lens is a bit well dodgy. The sound is obviously excellent. And I moved to Movie Maker as the software, and that's been pretty good. But the Zoom has had problems with regard to focus. In the last couple of years, I've moved between 3 different zoom cameras. So the focus just stopped working with the fisheye lens. So 3 of these cameras had to be bought. And of course, I'm buying it. There's no taxpayers' money. There's no Flinders University money that's created these vlogs. This is my money, right? So the key, therefore, is that this has to be intuitive. So what I've now done for the first time for vlog 200 is I've moved to a Sony Handycam. So let's give that a go and see how it happens. So with the technology, it must be incredibly easy to use, quick to use. I must be able to set it up in 2 minutes, because when I'm interviewing guests in the vlog, which happens a lot, people get very nervous with video. So if I'm taking 20 minutes to set kit up, then people get increasingly nervous, whereas I sit them down, within 2 minutes it's set up and we're recording. So that's decent and respectful for the people who have loaned me their time. So this gig must be portable, goes around the world, must be able to work well with a quick tripod, and I've got to be able to edit it quickly. Remember, we're not making a Star Wars movie. We're not. It is a vlog. It is a conversational mode of media, and it must be compartmentalized in your working day. So you need to know how long this is going to take. You do it, you get on with the rest of your life. So I set up and I deliver these vlogs in a 20 to 30 minute window. I do them in one take. As you can see, I don't sort of do all the edit. I do it in one take, and then we finish and then I edit it. Okay, so much for the technology. Let's drill a little bit deeper in terms of the content for this vlog and the conversational part of that. As we've talked about, this vlog started as a student-centered, a student-triggered enterprise, and it remains that way. 95% of the vlogs come from your suggestions directly. The other 5% are added because it becomes clear as I'm doing the research that the student request requires a couple of scaffolding steps before I can get there. So the best example of that, I think, is the brilliant request I got for the most common errors in a PhD examination. That was a great request, but to frame that properly and in a meaningful way, I had to put some of the information literacy, information scaffold material around it. So that's an example. And also, you know, to talk about the great requests I got for the blue economy, the green economy, the gig economy, I needed to do the political economy vlog first. Okay, so this remains a student-driven protocol, and it's like, if you will, a PhD student jukebox. You put in a request, you get back that request. I love that. But the key challenge to address early on that still worries me is you are a PhD student, and for most of you this is your first PhD, and you don't know what you don't know. So when you're asking for requests, there's a finite vista of those requests. So I really wanted to avoid the vlogs becoming like Oprah, week upon week upon week, talking about your feelings. I really wanted to avoid that if I could. And I know with the requests, if I did 30 vlogs on imposter syndrome, it still wouldn't be enough, okay? So feelings are important, and a lot of the work we do explores feelings, but actually intelligence is more important, and excellence is even more important than that. So throughout this vlog series, and the balance is very difficult to get right, I have to balance between intellectual ideas, good, solid, fascinating ideas at a high level, and what is pretty well dodgy management theory, self-help, and educational psychology that just makes me want to eat my own liver. Okay, so I'm sort of balancing this pretty low stuff and this pretty high stuff and making it talk to each other. And I always wanted to use this series as an inspiration to introduce you all to some of the best scholars in the world, also some of the most controversial scholars. So for example, we did a whole standalone vlog on Guy Standing's The Precariat. Fascinating idea, fascinating man, a lot of problems with it, but let's talk about it. So we did a vlog on that. I also introduced you in the I'm Feeling Overwhelmed vlog into the concept of deviant leisure from Raymond and Smith. And as far as I'm concerned, Raymond and Smith and the deviant leisure concept is probably in the 5 or 10 most important ideas in circulation on the planet today. So that's when we start to get the balance right. Here's the tips and tricks that help you right now today But here's a concept for you to think about that might transform your wider thinking. And that's great, because this does remain an intellectual project, and I don't ever walk away from the word intellectual. We are intellectuals. I am training you to be an intellectual. And I think Bunnyman particularly was interested in how I research these vlogs. And first, Bunnyman, as you know, I read hundreds of books a year, thousands of articles a year, and I have all the notes I've taken on everything I've read since 1992. So that means you pick a topic and the chances are I have something on that topic. So that's a bit of a starter set of ideas that I can work from. But what I do is when the requests come in from students, I have a vlog file. Flinders vlog. I have a vlog file. And whenever students suggest something, I add a line. So Marianne has suggested this, Paul has suggested this, and I often have the email with it. So I've got the context of it and what's particularly interesting. So I save that in the vlog file. And by the way, by vlog 200, I'm now at page 1724 of that vlog file. And it's worked out for me in the script of these vlogs, it's hit 333,400 words. So that's about 3.5 PhDs I've written in these 3 and a bit years. And of course, I then, once the topics are there, I work with them. So frequently I have about 10, sometimes 15 vlogs on the go at any one time. And so what often happens is, so there they are, and then something will happen in the office. I'll read something, or a student will offer a great example, and I'll go, oh, that's it. That's fantastic. So something will occur, that goes into that vlog, and that kicks on to completion. So at any one time, there are 10 vlogs that are being worked on, and that might vary from 2 or 3 ideas sitting in a vlog to one that's pretty well 2/3 done. So some sit for a couple of weeks, some sit for 8 months. My longest one has sat there for 8 months, waiting for that big final infusion to make it meaningful. And some also emerge from requests of previous vlogs. So when that happens, I try to have a pretty quick turnaround. Best example of that happened when I did the I'm Overwhelmed vlog, and that had a huge response and a lot of follow-ups. But a great one came from Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Ashley, pretty well immediately after that vlog appeared, emailed me and said, okay, well, I'm now not feeling overwhelmed, but can we talk a little bit about priorities and opportunities? So if I'm not overwhelmed, how do I take advantage of something that occurs? How great is that? So I was able to, because I had good reading on that and good research on that, deliver that within a couple of weeks. And then, of course, we get to the truly wonderful John. Hi, John. John always gives me the most intricate, complex and delicate of topics to explore. And his great work started our social justice series, the quartet, and he wanted me to talk about what it is like to be a gay man in a university. So that was a pleasure to deliver on that. Great research, and I'm very proud of that vlog. And it led to the Social Justice Quartet, which is the most unpopular series I've ever done. So we've had a whole series of popular and unpopular vlogs in this unpopular cultural series. But can I say the Social Justice Quartet really got you going. The idea that a woman was using men's studies and masculinity studies to talk about men. A lot of men just lost the will to live. Bless you on that. But I also know when I was exploring the nature of heterosexism in higher education, that a lot of our gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender colleagues, non-binary identifying colleagues gained a lot of solace from that, and a lot of our students came out during that process. So wow, it was worth it. But John's requests take a lot longer because they are sensitive and difficult, and I want to use absolutely the best research I can find to do justice to them. So they sit in my file, and when something important happens, it kicks on and completes. So basically I'm researching a cluster of vlogs on very different topics at any one time. And I try to always use the most current material. So when I do my final search to finish the vlog, I look at what's just emerged in 2020, and that's what I infuse the vlog with from diverse disciplines. So then I write up the polished vlog into a script. So every word I say is on these cards, and that sometimes can take 2 hours. So I've got all the reading, I can write it up into a vlog, bang, 2 hours, great. Some of them take a lot longer. The self-plagiarism vlog, which I'm terribly proud of, one of the weirdest ones, that took 2 weeks to write. That was a biggie, and I'm proud of that. So then after it's written, I put it on these cards, and then I learn the script in the gym each morning. So I'm on a treadmill, and so it takes me, I'm on the treadmill for 10 hours a week, and so I use that 10 hours to learn these vlogs. Okay, so 30 minutes to record them, 30 minutes to edit them, up they go into YouTube, thanks. So you receive your notification. So Bunny Man, I have an assembly line going with these vlogs, and every request I log in a file and I start to work on it. So again, if you have a suggestion, send me an email, send me a comment, and I'll start working on that vlog for you. Okay, so I found this process really evocative and exciting. It's really stretched my brain out brilliantly. And I wouldn't have thought of any of the topics that you've suggested. Absolutely amazing. So I remain incredibly grateful to you and thankful to you that you've entered my life. You've really changed my life, and I'm thankful for that. And yes, there have been challenges, and sort of we're reaching the end of this meta vlog now to talk about the challenges. So when you come to develop something like this in your own life and your own work, you've got some key troubling and challenging decisions to make. Therefore, what you've got to do is you've got to balance the intellectual and the personal. And that, for me, remains the weekly challenge. You want to make sure that you're always thinking internationally, you're thinking big, you're transcending, you're transforming, and you move beyond yourself always into a wider, bigger intellectual culture. Because these big ideas, these powerful, these controversial scholars remain integral to what we do and integral to who we are. What this is about is learning, thinking, provoking, creating. That's what we do. And the informality of the vlogs does pose some challenges, I think, for the content, but also the relationship, thinking about the relationship between the personal and the academic, the personal and the scholarly, the personal and professional. And that relationship you do have to sort out before you commence any series like this. So how much of yourself do you want to share through a medium like this? And look, we live in a time of oversharing. People photograph their meals and put them on Instagram. Okay, why? So we live in that sort of time. And part of this project, though, and I was aware of it right from the start, is me looking at you and reaching through the screen and talking to you. Because when I started this vlog series, the research was starting to emerge about the mental health concerns that are starting to be revealed in PhD communities around the world. And this troubled me a lot, and it framed and changed what we do here. And in this vlog, I just wanted to acknowledge Jessica Small. I want to say her name, Jessica Small, a PhD student in anthropology at the University of Kent. And Jessica killed herself in October last year, October 2019, because of bullying, because of a toxic lab, and because her fellow PhD students mocked her because she didn't go to a private school and she didn't have the right accent. So a crucial part of these vlogs remains a real, meaningful connection between us. Vlogs are about stories and about storytelling, and that's why I always try and mention the students by name, even though so some of you have fabulous names, Bunny Man, Mona Lisa, and I always mention you by name because this is your series, these are your stories, and therefore you've been incredibly real with me, and I have to be real with you because we are communicating through this interface. I know that. And obviously as a dean, as a professor, as an international researcher, the relationship between public and private remains quite challenging for me. And in this vlog series, you are the stars. This is your channel. It's there for you. The whole reason it exists is for you. And your needs are the #1 priority. They determine everything else that we do. But I did want to log for you the quite challenging, and I find it very challenging, dance between the private and the public in these vlogs. Now, I'm a pretty private person. I have a very large private space. No one except my father and my husband has my mobile phone number, and to be frank, I don't know where my mobile phone is most of the time, and no one comes into my house. This is a sanctuary for me. In fact, you in the vlogs, you've seen more of my house than my best friends. So I made a decision when the vlog series started. It was quite challenging for me, that I would present higher education with all its warts, its ugliness, its brutality, its toxicity, and also its great, unusual, weird beauty. Because I wasn't creating a marketing campaign here. There's no branding here. There's no marketing here. If you're going to get through that thesis, I have to be real with you, right? If I'm going to get you into work, then I'm going to have to be real with you. And I'm trying to use everything that I know to make it easier for you. Remember, I research higher education studies. This is not a vibe. I research this. I'm producing 10 or so articles and books this year. About half of them are located in higher education studies. So I research universities as an institution, as a workplace, as a living. Also, I am pretty unusual. I've worked in 9 universities in 4 countries through my career, and I've worked from the poshest universities in the world to the well-dodgiest universities in the world. There's nothing that I haven't seen or haven't had to negotiate. Bullying, really weird sexual stuff, jealousy, revenge, excrement put under an office door of a colleague, fights in the car park. So pick something bonkers in the contemporary university system, and I've seen it and I can tell you how it's going to end. And of course, nearly 4 years in, we know this system has worked because thousands of you have completed your thesis quickly. One idea I've mentioned has just provided that final impetus to get you home. Thousands of you have now enrolled, having watched these with clear expectations and momentum going in. Hi, Maeve. And thousands of you are now in work or preparing yourself for work, knowing how to run an interview and what a university wants. So our relationship has been built on honesty and integrity. And look, I've had to create some new comfort zones for myself in terms of the public and the private divide, and that's the final sort of methodological point I'd like to make through these academic vlogs and the advice I'd offer you. This is research that we are enacting here. I knew that from the start. This is learning-led, teaching-led research. That's what we're doing in these vlogs. And I started this vlog series with some theories, with some goals, but very quickly my audience of 2, Melanie and Heather, became much larger. And it became highly international. And now we are heading to, unbelievably, 1 million views of these vlogs. And no one is more surprised than me, and no one is more humbled than me. I can't believe it, to be frank. So this remains a learning-led, disintermediated visual research project. And the goal is to create community, communication, and yes, connection. And we'll continue to do that. And while there have been some surprises, I've been challenged by you more than I can probably ever convey to you, and that's been fantastic. But I do need to, I suppose, finish off with the tragedy, the weeping wound of these vlogs that will always punctuate them for me. So we may do these vlogs for another week, another month, another few months maybe, see what happens. But wherever I end up in the world in 5, 10, 20 years and think back on these vlogs and what we've shared, there'll always be a tragedy there. And that's, of course, the death of my late husband, Professor Steve Rettet. Now, 4 of these 200 vlogs features Steve, and he's at his most gorgeous, brilliant, fabulous best. So I'm so glad we've got those videos. But Steve was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the last week of June 2017. We'd recorded a vlog the month before, again via request from a student for Steve, how to move from a blog to a book, which is what he did in Theoretical Times. So we'd recorded a vlog the month before. But Steve wanted no treatment. And obviously treatment is impossible with pancreatic cancer. When you get the diagnosis, you're a dead man walking. You're dead at the point of diagnosis. But he wanted no intervention, which was fine, but he also wanted to keep it completely private. Didn't want anybody to know. He was finishing his book, Theoretical Times, a series of books, a series of articles, and he just wanted to do that. He wanted to stay at home, he wanted to be private, do his research, and spend time with me, and that was it. And I was able to deliver that. He left the planet the way he wanted to, and I'm thrilled with that. But his illness and his death had a huge impact on these vlogs, the secrecy of it. And just to give you how long this was occurring, this illness, while I was recording them, is from vlog 67 on altmetrics through to vlog 102, the digital doctorate. So that was me looking after Steve in complete privacy in this house. And I had a pretty big dean job to manage, which is probably a double full-time job anyway. I supervised about 20 students to completion during that period, and I was looking after Steve in this house in secret. So there are some horrendous memories that are locked in these vlogs. The first vlog of our Three Monkeys series, Epistemology, the only time I got the number of the vlog wrong, by the way, Epistemology, I'd been with Steve in emergency all night. I threw myself home on a Sunday morning, threw myself into the shower, whacked a face on, and recorded Epistemology, the vlog, in my office upstairs, and then ran back to the hospital. I started to move the vlogs to work, to record them very early on Sunday mornings, so I wouldn't interrupt Steve. He could have a few more hours sleep while he wasn't even his missus downstairs recording a video, so just to let him have a little bit more sleep. And life became pretty hard. And the state of me in some of those vlogs is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't look at a lot of them, to be honest with you. And the two most horrendous ones, I think, are compartmentalisation and excuses, the two vlogs right near the end of Steve's life. And I look an absolute train wreck. And I can't look at them now. So it was a tough time. But there is a lesson there. And I hope it is maybe an example for you. That you know what? Truly dreadful things happen. Dreadful things happen. And when dreadful things happen, you have some choices. I could have given up. It would have been really easy to give up. But instead I said, right, well, let's focus on doing a good job. I'm Dean, I love it. I've got a wonderful boss, Rob Saint, you rock, Rob. Wonderful boss. Let's deliver good outcomes for this university. Let's do a good vlog series. Let's focus on that and make sure that Steve could go out as he wanted to go out. So these vlogs have told an accidental biography of an illness and an accidental biography of a death. And I do particularly want to log the remarkable Dr. Danny Milos, who runs the professional development program for us at Flinders University. I've never done this and I want to do it publicly. Danny, looking at you. Danny did vlog 103 with me. Rather important memory. She did it, and no one knows this, but she did it the day after Steve died. Day after he died. And obviously my office was completely devastated, but I needed to get one vlog done because, as you can understand, we're all on our own in Adelaide and he died, so someone had to manage the death. So I got one vlog done with Danny. We planned it. We didn't know Steve would die the day before. So I'll always have regrets about that because I was fine, but it was very hard on Danny. And you can see the state of the shock on her face. Physically, she's just holding herself together, but I'm grateful to her. Because if that vlog had been missed, 103, I probably would have stopped it there. So we wouldn't have got to 200 without Danny. And after Steve's death, although it was the worst thing that ever happened to Steve, and certainly the worst thing that will ever happen to me, it presented some gifts. His life presented great gifts, and his death did as well. And certainly I think about our resilience series, the series of 3 we did on resilience, where I went hard on what I think is a very poor series of debates at the moment about resilience, and I went hard on it, and much to my pride, those 3 videos are used to teach social work in the United Kingdom and how to handle death, illness, disability and carers. How fantastic is that? That's great. And of course the vlog on death itself. that was released 1 year after Steve's death to the day. Again, not planned. It was a request from you, from Twitter, and I delivered it. Just happened to be on the day of the anniversary of his death. And that one was bizarre because thousands of people contacted me after that one was released. And there have been incredible stories where students have told me that they could never get the words out about what it felt to lose their mum or their dad or their partner, and they simply sent that vlog onto their friends, onto their family, onto their supervisor or advisor, and said, "This is how it feels. Help me finish this thesis." Powerful. Bree, Hayley. So this is meaningful for me, and when Steve and I talked about this vlog series, it never crossed our mind that the last 100 would be recorded without him, and that this would shadow his death and his illness. But that's the nature of vlogs, and that's the nature of social media, and perhaps it's also the nature of being a woman in academic life. The personal is political, but as most of you know, this also has a rather happy ending to it, because we also shared my marriage with the wonderful Professor Jamie Quinton. So now I've got husbands. I have become Liz Taylor. So when I refer to husbands, I have to specify which one. How fantastic. And of course, the nature of these vlogs, you all came on our honeymoon to New Zealand as well. So life is quite remarkable, isn't it? So the personal is political, is intellectual. And I hope that these vlogs have created a thinking space for you. We've done something new here. We've created something new internationally from this little city at the base of Australia. And what we've done is we've created PhD media as a new subset of media studies. PhD media for PhD students. We are diverse in location, in ability and disability and impairment, in age and race and gender and sexuality. But a vlog such as this can capture that diversity. We've interviewed extraordinary students. You have seen real PhD students expressing the grit and the determination and the disappointment and their hopes. We have shared that. We've explored and worked with remarkable and innovative colleagues around the world, entered controversial ideas, the gig economy, the blue economy, the green economy. But in these vlogs, you remain the star. You remain the focus. The profound achievement of these vlogs is we found ways to capture the voice, the views, the hopes, the disappointments of PhD students. Universities often have our PhD students as invisible, as part of a very small component of what a university does. But in these series, in these vlogs, you are the star. You are everything. And so I thank you for your contribution to Flinders University, and I know how spectacular your contribution will be to the world. Bunny Man, you rock. I wish you all for vlog 200 love, light and peace. Tea out.